I absolutely love seeing a debate between a right winger and a left leaning person on television. One where there's no name calling, no personal attacks, and it's just discussing ideas. It's very rare to see them these days, and what's even more unfortunate is the fact that the leftist is the moderator. It would have been a lot nicer if they actually had the Democrat to debate with J.D. Vance, but he's just going to debate the moderator. So, I'll take what I get.
The reason that there is a housing crisis is that not enough houses have been built.
And that we have 25 million people who shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, this is the thing.
I think it's both.
I know you do. I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but
I love the interjection, right? It's like, do you have a poll or a survey to show how many people agree with him? You're just making the assertion.
about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large proportion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
Well, I think it's a fair question because we know that back in the 1960s when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses, didn't build houses.
That is such an amazing answer, and I absolutely love it. It's the same mentality when it comes to human reproduction. If you notice, a lot of mainstream Democrats don't know what a woman is anymore. They probably don't even know where babies come from, but it's irrelevant, right? Because that's not how human beings reproduce. Your biology teacher was outdated, a reactionary. That's not how it works. The way reproduction works is that you vote Democrat, and once that the Democrats are in office, they open the borders and people come pouring in, and that is how humans reproduce now. That is the process of human reproduction. And when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to building houses, when it comes to all of this stuff, you just cannot have citizens do it. Like, there is something preventing them. Instead, it has to be done with undocumented people. There is no other way. I generally like the fact that now you can ask a leftist. It's like, well, how did people do it throughout history? Like, how was it done before now? Like, for thousands of years, people managed to do their own agriculture. People managed to do their own labor. And you'll notice that this conversation exists everywhere. Right? Like in the UK, it was like, who's going to pick our fruits during COVID? Like, we locked the borders. No one is going to do agriculture. How does Israel manage, right? Like, why doesn't Israel need foreign workforce in order to do their shit? It's really interesting, right? So let's see how she will respond to this.
But of course they did. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point, Lulu. The assumption that because a large number of home builders now are using undocumented labor, that's the only way to build homes, I think, again,
the country is much bigger. The need is much bigger. I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of illegal immigration. I'm asking.
She literally is. She just said that, I think it was the number, a third of the workforce for builders are undocumented people. So, like, how will America not collapse without them? You are arguing in favor of undocumented people.
How you would deal with the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who work in a critical part of the economy.
Well, I think that what you would do is you would take, let's say, for example, the 7 million prime-age men who have dropped out of the labor force, and you have a smaller number of women, but still millions of women prime-age who have dropped out of the labor force. You absolutely could re-engage folks into the American labor market. This is, I think...
To work in construction?
Of course.
Look at this. Look how astonished she is, right? Like, for the last couple of decades, you have the mainstream media arguing for equality for women. And they're usually, it's like, not enough women CEO, not enough women in this position, oh, you're not hiring women over there. And now even the concept, which J.D. Vance isn't saying, but he's just alluding that there's a lot of unemployed women. It's like, in construction? Like, have women work in construction? And, it's also this classyism. Look, the idea for a journalist that her children may work in construction is so disgusting. It's so repulsive. Why? Because they do view the undocumented immigrants as slaves. And why is that? Well, because imagine this, right? You're going to a different country and you don't speak the language, you don't know the laws, you don't have the money to hire a lawyer. if the company you work for decides to pay you under minimum wage, if they decide to skip on a lot of work and safety regulation, what are you going to do? You don't speak the language. You don't even know if they're skipping on regulations or not, right? They can abuse you. And you don't really have much recourse. So it's really great for corporations. I mean, companies, that want to build something cheap and sell it for the highest price possible, yeah, they don't care. And you know what companies are going to suffer? The companies that actually follow the rules. Like if you have companies that, that they follow all the safety regulations and they pay a living wage and they do all that, they can't compete in this market. So they have to hire illegals as well, or they go out of a business. It's a really nasty thing. And you have like the leftist government that constantly vote for more regulations, which again can be skimmed just by hiring undocumented people. And not to mention, if the undocumented person complains, you can threaten them with deportation. You're like, well, it's like, you're not a citizen. What are you going to do? We're going to report you to ICE if you keep complaining. Right? If they start unionizing, if they hire someone to represent them, well, immediately they can call ICE on that person. It's a horrible system, and the left never talks about the downsides. And it's very difficult to say that you're siding with the poor or you're siding with the marginalized when you're siding with the big corporations and you care about their bottom line. It's like, well, what are they going to do if they don't have any cheap labor force? Well, they're going to have to pay more, right? Because the demand for housing is there. People are going to afford more money to buy the houses. So you're just going to have to hire citizens. And you're going to have to pay them a decent wage. And you're going to have to apply all the leftist regulations, because most of these corporations, they vote left-leaning, right? So like, and by the way, the reason they vote left-leaning is to destroy their competition, because the competition that follows the rules and the competition that is law-abiding, well, they're going to have to cough up a little more cash. It's going to go into their profits. Meanwhile, you're hiring undocumented, you don't care about the rules and regulations, so you're not going to go out of business.
Of course you could.
I mean, the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Most people
unemployment rate, Lulu, this is important.
But most people who don't work can't work in the regular economy. They're in the military.
Look what the journalists are doing, right? Like, J.D. Vance is obviously talking about working men. Like, he even mentions, like, able-bodied working men. And now she's talking about people in the military, and then she goes on the elderly, the disabled. Look how disingenuous the arguments are. And the reason for it is that I don't think the left is used to debating anymore. Like, they used to debate, but for like the last couple of years, they were like, oh, no platform for fascists, no platform for bigots. And the bigots just had the conversations without them. They managed to polish the arguments. And now you have a situation where they don't know what to say. I mean, they're repeating their own echo chamber talking points. It's like, oh, what about the disabled? It's like, yeah, but we're not talking about them. They're going to be on welfare. But like the able-bodied men that want jobs, that are seeking jobs, that are desperate to get a job, yeah, they should be able to. Why shouldn't they? Like, if you can't get a job in your country, what do you do? Well, if you're in Mexico, you go to the United States. But if you're in the United States, where do you go?
Their parents, they're sick, they're old. They might not want to work in construction.
The unemployment rate is...
And again, the thing, like, they might not want to work in construction. Well, I'm pretty sure if, you have an able-bodied person that is getting welfare, yeah, they may not want to work in construction. Take away the welfare and see how fast they do. What is this shit? It's like they may not want to work. That they don't get to feed themselves. That's how it should be. Now, again, if it's a person that's sick, okay. If it's a person that's disabled, all right. But if it's an able-bodied person, they should get a job. And if they don't want to work in construction, then study or do something else. Drive a truck. Drive an Uber. Do other things. Like, it's fine. You don't have to work in construction. But like this idea that working in construction is something that should be looked down on is such a disgusting left-leaning mindset. And it is left-leaning now. Like, they used to be for the working class. They used to view the idea of a builder as a noble profession. But I remember watching Destiny, talking to Sargon a couple of years ago, and he too looked down with disdain towards the working class. And it's also like the mentality. It's like you need to go to university to avoid becoming working class, right? Like, being a builder is something to avoid. It's something that the immigrants do. It's not something that we decent folk do or like to do. This is, and by the way, I think for her it's horrifying. Yeah, like for her, it's the idea that her children may end up working in construction is terrifying her.
does not count labor force participation dropouts. And again, this is one of the really deranged things that I think illegal immigration does to our society, is it gets us in a mindset of saying we can only build houses with illegal immigrants when we have 7 million, just men, not even women, just men who have completely dropped out of the labor force. People say, well, Americans won't do those jobs. Americans won't do those jobs for below the table wages. They won't do those jobs for non-living wages.
And yeah, they won't do those jobs if they get welfare. Again, if you're an able-bodied man, I don't think you should get welfare. Just, like, why? Why are you getting welfare if you can work? Now, in the context of America, from what I understand, talking with many people from San Francisco, from various corporations, they told me what HR is doing. And you have an army of HR ladies. And by the way, take it with a grain of salt. This is like the allegations I got from different people working at different companies. But you got the HR ladies that are screening the resumes to see if you're from proper schools. So it doesn't really matter if you can do the job 10 times better than someone that's quote-unquote educated. It doesn't matter if you're self-taught. And you would notice that sometimes your parents could get jobs without needing a university that now require a job. Like literally the same position, the same stuff they do. In fact, like there are situations where people that are still working in a place and they got in without a university degree, but now everyone that has to get in needs a university degree, right? So like the first thing is the elitism. Like you need to go to a proper school, otherwise they throw your resume in the trash. Then they start screaming for diversity purposes. It's like, okay, we need more black people, we need more Asians, we need, right? So I don't think there is a single diversity initiative that's like, we need more straight white men. So if you're a straight white man, chances are they will throw your resume into the trash. But, you know, they will, for legal reasons, invite a couple to a resume, which is just for show to say, oh, like, I mean, we interviewed a couple, but they just didn't make it. I don't know how widespread this is, but like from the companies that I heard, it's definitely a thing. So you can have people that genuinely want to work. They genuinely want to do stuff. But, you know, if the culture and the system is designed in such a way that alienates them, like, what are you going to do? They're going to stay on welfare. In Europe, it's different. Like in Europe during COVID, there were reports in the media, even in The Guardian, that farmers, for instance, in the UK, required the labor they hired to speak Romanian or Bulgarian. And I'm like, but why though? Like, why is it important if you're picking bananas to speak Romanian or Bulgarian? And I think the reason is because people, you know, they can't actually ask for this legally. So they're hoping that people who speak Romanian and Bulgarian are foreigners. They don't know British law, so that when the farmer abuses them or pays them under the table, then they're less likely to complain. They're less likely to hire an attorney. They're less likely to go to the press. But if you're like a British lad and you're like, oh, I mean, it's a summer holiday, why shouldn't I go pick some bananas and make some money? You can't, right? Because you may sue the farmer and they don't like that. So these are things that leftists don't want to tackle. They generally don't want to even have the conversation. And it's nice to see that it's finally being brought up to the center stage. And of course, you know, if you're an illegal, you wouldn't want Donald Trump to win. Like, you'd want Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter, like, the policies that she has. It doesn't matter her personality. It doesn't matter her view on foreign affairs. Like, all it matters is the fact that you're allowed to keep staying there. And the Democrats know this. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.